Hey guys, my name is Julia. I'm education coordinator for Big Sky Documentary Film Festival, and we're super excited to have you here because we have a group of super talented young filmmakers who are actually joining us here in Missoula, Montana from Harlem, Montana, which is, some of you guys don't know, that is a 7-hour drive east from Missoula, close to the Canadian border. So these guys trekked out here to join us to share their short film all one day. So what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce all of the filmmakers, and they'll introduce themselves and in their native language as well, and we'll screen the film and then open it up for discussion afterwards to talk a little bit about their process and their home, where they're coming from. So I don't want to take up too much time, but I want to say a few things about the film festival. We're really excited. We have a lot of schools joining us. Kathleen, can you name a few?
Sure. Sealy Lake, Ronan, Spring Creek. There's a lot that are not on camera.
Okay, so we have a lot not on camera, but Ronan, Spring Creek, Sealy Lake.
Hi.
We have it sounds like you guys recognize some of these teachers.
Yeah, like their gym teacher or something.
Oh, great! So you might see these.
Yeah.
So the festival started on Friday the 14th and it runs to the 23rd. We have 10 days of films, over 150 films with attending filmmakers. We get films from across the world with people coming and joining us from across the country, across the state. And so this program, in partnership with Inspired Classrooms, lets us share this festival experience where these films are world premiering. It's the first time they're being shown to an audience. So you guys are some of the first people, we've screened it a few times, but some of the first people to see this film. So to ask these questions and engage with these filmmakers is a really exceptional and cool experience for you. And that the fact that these are Montana filmmakers is that much more special. The film industry in Montana is growing, and we're trying to reach more youth to get you guys to be able to have access to these films. So this question and answer is a way for us to kind of tap into that. We also have a few schools joining us from the out of state of Montana. We can only see about 6 of you on the screen. There are more than that. So as I moderate the Q&A, Kathleen is going to punt questions to me. So if you're a student and you're watching this and you really have a question you want to ask, tell your teacher, if you don't have a webcam, she'll message us, and then Kathleen will ask us your question. So we want to get to most of them. We have a limited amount of time. We have about an hour here today that we'll have to ask, and so many filmmakers. I don't want to take up too much time because I'm not the important one here. But without further ado, the filmmakers to looking forward from yesterday. I'm going to just start with Alexis Bigby, the director of the film, and she'll introduce her fellow colleagues.
Hey guys, my name is Alexis Bigby, and I was the director for the film Looking Forward from Yesterday, which you will be seeing in about a few minutes. So first, I'm just going to start off with a little quick introduction in my native language, Aani, because I'm from Fort Belknap Reservation. So, Nahani tain nanisahit bats basis, Alexis Bigby, nahasihina, ninana aninen. So that translates to, hello my relatives. My name is Red Willow. Alexis Bigby is what they call me, and I am from the Aani White Clay tribe. So Looking Forward from Yesterday is a film about cultural preservation and how the Aani Nakota people, home of the Fort Belknap Indian Reservation, we need to interest and encourage the youth to be more involved in the cultural components of Native American culture. It's a film that shows and represents that in order to get people more involved, I guess, the youth, that it's going to take a change. We're going to need a positive change, and that it won't take just a matter of days. It'll probably take years, but as long as we're seeing those positive effects, that's all that really matters. So I guess I'll just introduce the rest of the crew. I just want to say that without these guys, this film wouldn't even have been possible. So yeah. Okay, so first I'd like to introduce Clinton Brown, who was our main cinematographer. Yeah. And then
We'll squeeze in here.
Yeah, I would like to introduce Dante Jackson, who was our main editor. And then I'd like to introduce Amelia Blackcrow, who was an assistant cinematographer and assistant interviewer. Go ahead, stand in front of me. Go ahead. And then I'd like to introduce Nellie King, who is also an assistant cinematographer and interviewer. And then lastly, I'd like to introduce Matrina Bagay, who was honestly involved in everything, so she was a huge help to the group. So, yeah. And
I know, I'm amazed we squeezed all on
yeah,
here.
yeah.
So we'll be having a Q&A with everybody here after we watch the film. But as you're watching, kind of pay attention to, these guys spent a lot of time on this, and as you can see, it's a big team. So this requires a lot of collaboration, and it comes from a huge amount of work and talent and collaboration. And as you can see, these are high school students, you know, some of which were in middle school last year. So keep that in mind as you're watching, and kind of this, as we talk about kind of these aspects of storytelling that really came into this film. So without further ado, we'll watch this. It's about 10 minutes, is that correct?
10 minutes.
10-minute short film, and then we're going to come back on screen afterwards to answer your questions about it. So, sure, we got our volume up all the way, guys. 10 minutes. Okay, guys, we can get off. We'll be back on here in a few. We'll see you in 10 minutes. Thanks so much, you guys, and settle in.
You can't compare what it was like when I grew up. I grew up at the agency. There were maybe 5 families living there. There were no homes. There were no houses. All of it was just country. There was more family interaction. Families stayed together. They helped one another. There were so few of us. Every single family on this reservation is a good family. They're strong. They survived the Holocaust. Every family has that strength within that family, and we need to recognize that and empower that. This whole problem started from the boarding school, and it's filtered down to now where in our community, it's the best kept secret. We don't talk about it. We don't deal with it. We don't teach about it. But it's the biggest problem that we have. And then underneath it are all those other problems, you know, drugs, alcohol, suicide, all these other things. To me, they're under that umbrella of sexual abuse.
Something has to be done. Here in the school, but in the homes as well. People aren't taking the time to learn about culture. We examine that word culture in all its components. Because for us here, Fort Malnap, you say Indian culture, right away they think powwow, they think sweat lodge, Sundance, and that's it. But culture is so much more. It's like all these little components that make up that word culture. The way we dress, our dwellings, you know, traditional dwellings, our traditional food, music, dance.
And I don't know if it would solve them, but one way would be to get our younger people interested in our cultures, our ceremonies, the ways that we used to have a long time ago.
I'm working on a piece of quill work. It's an earring. Only one side's done. All these little things are little quills from porcupines. Yeah, not many people around here know how to do it anymore. The thing that they basically do is most of the time is beading, and there's only a couple people that know how to do quill work or even tack quill work. Can you tell me about your dresses? Yeah, me and my mom made them. We just make them right at home. We have 2 sewing machines, and we take turns just sewing. Have to sketch them out before everything.
This is buffalo hide. What we're doing is we're scraping the hair off so we can prepare it for like a drum. Well, when we're done scraping it, we take it off this rack so we can lace it onto a drum.
One of the components of culture is games. And with stick games, most of the tribes have their own way of playing stick games. And so then we learn about the Cheyenne style of stick game, Crow style of stick game, Flathead style, Blackfeet style, Ahani style, to all these different tribes and their ways of playing stick game. It helps us to further understand our own way of playing stick game, and as well as the ceremonial game called hand game here on Fort Valna. Should students ever want to go and participate in a hand game ceremony or in a stick game tournament, they'll have that understanding.
Our traditional ceremonial hand game. When they sponsor a hand game, whoever sponsors a hand game is because somebody is usually sick in their family, or like, take, for example, if they got some young person going into the service, they put a hand game on for them so that they'll stay out of harm's way and return home. We weren't plagued with drugs. We didn't have TVs. We certainly didn't have cell phones. As a result of that, we went to visit your family. We went to visit someone else's family. And a lot of our culture was through that, the stories that went with our culture, with our religion. Where now, that's the last thing anybody wants to talk about. They want to sit there and watch TV or on a cell phone, even if they got company. At that time, we listened to our elders.
I've struggled for a long time with to what extent we should allow technology within our culture. Our young people know this technology really well. I think it's definitely a way to preserve parts of our culture, but there's a lot of our culture that can't be preserved within technology. One thing that we really work on in this classroom here all year long is relearning how to listen. That listening can become a way of learning for us, as it once was a long time ago.
I went to a boarding school when I was 14 years old for 4 years, and we had 500 students there. And we had all different types. We had Sioux, we had Omaha from Nebraska, Sac and Fox, all different kind of tribes. So there was no one particular language, you know. But yet in all, we all came together as Indians. We didn't come as a Gros-Ventre, we didn't come as a Assiniboine, we didn't come as a Sioux. We came together as a people, Indian people. And that made it strong for us. We don't have that today, that togetherness.
These are our children in this school. We need to be teaching what we're talking about here today. That needs to be part of what we're doing, is empowering our children to be proud of themselves, to like what they're doing. These problems aren't going to be solved in one generation. You know, if you start now, in 10 years, you'll see the impact of that.
Well, now that you guys have seen the film, if you've got some questions for us, I'm going to invite our filmmaking crew back up here to the front. And Kathleen just passed off a note of some of the schools that are joining us today, just so everybody knows here. It's exciting. We've been doing this program for a few years now, and every year we reach a few more schools, and we're able to have kind of a collaborative discussion with students of all age groups. We have elementary, middle, and high school students joining us. So as people ask questions, be patient. listen, make sure your mic is on, and if you're not asking a question, turn your mic off because it's pretty sensitive and we get a lot of kickback here on this side. So just some things to be mindful of. But don't be shy to ask questions. There is no such thing as dumb questions. This is a new field, and that we've got plenty of people here to answer them. So some of the schools that are joining us here today are Ronan, Spring Creek, Cook City, Freud, Daly. Is it Daly or Dally?
Daly.
Daly, Victor, Decker, Bozeman, Sealy, and Hayes. So we got an eclectic group of students from all backgrounds. So with that, it looks like there's some familiar spaces here. I just want to start off with a question, and then I want to open it up to the students here. But, and feel free, Alexis, if you want to take this, or anybody else that's open to answering the questions here. If you could just talk a little bit about how you first got involved in this project and what made you decide to pursue this as a film, and if you had any filmmaking experience before.
Okay, so initially, our advisor, he's a shop teacher, he's a shop instructor at Harlem High School. His name is Craig Todd. He really approached the kids that he's seen had like not a hidden, well, I guess like a hidden talent for this, and that had a potential to be where we're at now with the film. I would say before Looking Forward from Yesterday, I had zero knowledge about film, and yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, and you guys, how long did you guys spend on this project? And this is a local community story, so you knew some of the contacts and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We spent about a week. This production, post-production, and then pre-production, production, post-production took about a week, and we premiered it that following Saturday at Harlem, and the reaction was great. So
yeah, that's amazing. For those that are not familiar with the filmmaking process, 1 week to make a film is phenomenal.
Yeah.
For most people, it takes months and years to get enough footage and whatnot. And because this was a community film, I'm sure you guys had a little easier time with the access and having that trust already there within the community and
definitely, yeah.
and whatnot. So I want to open this up for the students. Can I get a question from one of the classes joining us? And raise your hand high and make sure your mic is on.
How about if I just go down the list?
Oh, yeah.
Would that help?
That would help probably.
So let's start with Mrs. Allison's class at Daly Elementary in Hamilton. I've unmuted you, Mrs. Allison. Do you have a question?
Yes, we do.
Yep.
Loretta's coming over.
Besides this film, what else are you doing to inspire youth at Fort Belknap to learn more about your culture?
Great question.
That's a great
That
question.
is okay. So like that's something I'm really passionate about in inspiring our youth to be more in our culture. And so in our classrooms, we're like hanging. There's posters, and I want to put more posters up. But there's posters, and there's our our culture. It's all over the hallways, and we have a classroom just about culture. Taught by John Stiffarm, and yeah, we're trying to do more, and especially with our new other films coming up, I want to more focus on that. I don't know, it's that's something we want to do, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, we have certain weeks where we just dedicate it to Native American heritage, and we get kids from other schools. Like this year, last September, we had a Native American week where we invited Hayes. Hi, if you're seeing this. Hayes, Dotson, and Malta, and just all local other high schools where we celebrated our traditions and what it was like once for our people. So
That's a great question.
yeah, thank you for
Very
that question.
good.
It was great.
Let's go to Freud and Miss Webster's class.
How do you get those scenes where you're in the air?
This is a question for our cinematographer, Flint.
So what we do is we kind of rig up, it's like a little helicopter pretty much. It's called a drone, right? We just throw a camera on it. It kind of has a little built-in one, and you fly it.
Yeah, sounds
It's
like a video game. Hi, Riley.
Okay, let's go to Cook City, Miss Felice's class. Do you guys have a question?
So,
No questions here.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Mr. Condon's class. Do you guys have a question? Hang on just a second. I have to unmute you.
Now they can.
Oh, could you hear us?
They can now.
Oh. Okay. So like, this is, I don't know. What really made you feel like you wanted to do the video in general? Just like what inspired you to do it? I guess. That's the question.
We've always, we've always been passionate to show people what Native American culture is like. I mean, a lot of people have these perceptions of what it's like. They have assumptions, and this is a subject we're really passionate about, and we're all interested in, because filmmaking, the whole aspect's a lot of storytelling. So this is speaking about us and what establishes our identity as Native American people, including you guys, Ani Nakota people, is what really inspired us as filmmakers to make this film. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Let's go to Sealy Lake, Miss Bartlett's class. I will try to unmute you.
So cool. Like that we know somebody.
I know. Small world.
Yeah. Bartlett. There you go.
Very great. You can squeeze in there.
Go ahead, Sealy.
I had a student ask if the high school was the only school there that embraces Native American culture so much.
No, our elementary does, and then like our kindergarten is on the reservation, right?
Yeah, there's also
Emergent school.
There's also
Oh,
other
and the
schools,
emergent school.
such as the Emergent School and Hayes Lodgepole and Dotson that also, and just other schools around reservations in Montana
Our
that
district.
are really open about Native American culture. So we're not going to say that we're the only school that embraces culture.
Because we're
not at
not.
all. Yeah.
But we were talking about this a little bit with the Poplar School.
Yeah.
In the state of Montana, it's unique because not every state this is the case. But Indian Education for All is a program run by Mike Jetty with OPI that is required by all schools to learn about Native and Indigenous cultures in the state. So it may be a requirement, but for some teachers, it's not so much a part of the curriculum as, places like Harlem High School, where it's it's very much a part of the daily culture and whatnot. So this film does a really good job of showing how all-encompassing that is, and it is very community-oriented.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I noticed as well. As far as finding subjects in the film, was that something where there were relatives? Are they friends close to the family? And how did you decide to focus on those subjects when you guys were making this?
Okay. So we had another person on the crew that unfortunately couldn't be here today. Her name's Mia Wing, and her grandma Jill Plumage was actually in the film. So she was very sweet. Once we asked her, hey, would you mind talking to us for our film, and she said yes. And then Mike Talks Different, the other guy you see in the film, is Amelia's grandfather, and then John Stiffarm is our cultural instructor. So it was very easy and accessible, and we already had a connection, built-in relationship to where they felt comfortable enough to help us.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. And then I want to keep going through the list of schools so students can ask questions. But as far as I think one thing that came up when we were at the map screening yesterday was when you're making this film and you're part of the community, having that trust and being able to build that trust and asking these kind of hard questions that can sometimes be a bit emotional. And as far as Native American history, especially in the U.S., there's a lot of trauma there.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
you as young people telling this story, acknowledging that trauma, embracing your culture and moving forward. Can you talk a little bit about how you as young filmmakers moving forward kind of embrace that and what your next project is in the future here?
So I guess as Native American filmmakers, we're really, honored to be able to talk about our identity because this is such an important component of who we are. This is what makes up part of our identity, and it's such, I guess, an important component of just who we are. And what we'll be working on in the future are further films. So I brought this up recently, but recently we had a Native American Week, and we just shot footage everywhere. And we're gonna be, so this film was more from like an adult elder perspective. So this one coming around will be more from a student perspective. So I guess it'll be able to connect more to you guys, I guess. And then we'll also be touching more on heavy topics such as like MMIW, all of the suicides, and all the, I guess, all the plagues that have been like, I guess, happening in our, that we face in our community. So
Yeah. Well, and on that note, and then I promise I'll put it off to schools.
Yeah.
I noticed the shirts that you're wearing. Do you mind sharing with the students a little bit about what it says and what that, when you say MMIW, maybe some people don't know what that means, so maybe quick explanation and then we'll go back to the film.
MMIW is Missing Murdered Indigenous Women, and now they're adding MMIWM, right, which is Missing Murdered Indigenous Women and Men, and it
Indigenous
says,
people.
yeah, Indigenous people, and it says you are not forgotten, because like there's a big problem with Indigenous people and like the government, I guess, where we have our own little, like, our little board, and like if something happens to like a Native American woman, it's usually put in a file and forgotten. And it's like there's a bunch of films talk about it, like Rising Voices, which is amazing film, and like honestly you should just watch it. But yeah, like
Sisters Rising, not Rising.
oh sorry, Sisters Rising.
Sisters Rising. My
Yeah,
bad.
sorry.
Which is actually screening at the film festival right now. Yeah. Do you want to say something?
Are we ready to move on?
Yeah, let's go to the next
can't
question.
wait.
For the next school.
Ronan High School, do you have a question? Go Ronan. They're not on camera, but they have a microphone, I think. Oh, they don't have a mic. They'll type the question.
They'll type. Well, while they're typing, maybe we can move on to the next school and then we'll circle back.
Headwaters Academy in Bozeman.
Okay.
You guys have a question?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that.
Was this to bring awareness to the people of Bozeman and us middle school students? And what do you want us to know about this topic?
Ooh, big question.
Very good question.
We want you, I guess, to take away just more, if you don't have any knowledge about, I guess, Native American culture, we really want to show you how hard we as Ani and Dakota people, and not just us, but just all Native Americans in general, are fighting just to be like recognized and keep our culture alive. And that's really what we want you guys to take away from this film.
Thank you. Let's go to Spring Creek School. I'm unmuting you, hopefully. Just a minute. Almost. Oh, there we go. Go Spring Creek.
What was the biggest challenge making the film?
Thank you.
Biggest challenge making the film.
Just kidding. I would say the biggest obstacle for us was we only had 5 days to get all this completed, so it was constant, just double timing it all the time. Always on our toes. That was probably the biggest challenge, definitely.
4.5 days, actually.
So why did you guys have such a small window to make this? Was it because you wanted to screen it for
No,
Native?
it's because like, wasn't it just because of the time they give us?
They started the day after Memorial Day,
Uh-huh.
and then we had to screen it on that Saturday.
Oh.
So they
wow.
had 4.5 days.
Got it.
Ooh.
So your screening date was set before your film schedule was set.
That was, I know.
Yeah. So the teen doc intensive was nothing for you guys.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
We have a question from Victor, and there's probably 2 or 3 classrooms in Victor watching.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Where did you get the film segments you used in the film?
Can you define the film segment?
Like the archives.
Oh, the archival
More
content.
of a question for
Yeah,
Dante.
Dante. Let's put
because he's
that
on
to
the
Dante.
Go there.
So the question was, where did you get the archival footage in the film, and how did you decide to use that?
Really leaning in. Stand up.
There's this website called archive.org, and pretty much all we have to do is just search up our reservation, and it showed up with a bunch of footage taken from like
Years ago?
Yeah, years ago.
That's great. Is that like a government site, or is that just, do you know?
Library.
It's like free library site,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, it's a government.
That's great. I mean,
But
if you're working on your own
You got it
projects,
at the Ani Nakota Library.
Yeah, there is also some from the college library.
That's a great resource if you're just interested in learning about what resources are on your reservation, about your reservation, or in the towns that you live in. Just like Google searching the name of that town, anybody can find out a little bit more about the history, about where they come from. Were you guys surprised by some of that footage when you first came across it?
I felt that it really brought our story together as a whole, and that was just, it was great. Great resource.
Yeah.
The one picture with all of the gentlemen in it,
Yeah.
all the elders. Were any of you related to any of those?
Actually, I was related to William Bigby, who was a Nakota founding member of the Fort Belknap Reservation. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Great. We have a question from Ronan High School. Have you been given any awards or have been nominated for any?
We got a notice that the jury from the Portland International Film Festival inducted our screening. So originally there's 12 student films that are selected, right? And only about 5 are chosen to be screened. So ours was one of the 5 chosen, and also we are going to be presented with an award. So that was a huge accomplishment for us. And again, I just thank Maps Media. Oh, it's in Portland, Oregon, by the way. Yeah,
Just as it's not a big
but I
deal.
really like to thank Maps Media, Greater Montana Foundation, Montana Europe, my advisor Craig Todd, the Maps Media instructors Drew Carr, Michael Workman, Dan Malloy, and Danielle Vickers. I really want to thank them because they were our biggest supporters, and they're the ones that believed in us to even make this film. So.
And we'd like to thank our families.
Oh yeah, and our families there. They're definitely.
Island Mountain for you.
Oh yeah, and Island Mountain for our current. Yeah.
That's a good point, that long list of thank yous. Of just
Yeah.
like, there's so much more involved in this project than, like, you guys were such a core part, but getting funding and all this stuff, like, you're doing that at such a young age. And we got to screen this in Hamilton yesterday at the Maps Media Institute for a special screening. And it was cool to talk a little bit about what goes into a project like this and kind of where do you find the funding. And one of the filmmakers with the film that we're screening at the festival said that you guys are ahead of the game to be so young and into filmmaking, because you already have the younger generation, I think, has so much access to technology. You guys are on your phones making videos all the time. And so this is a great example of what you can do with that to tell your community's story.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions on the line there, Kathleen?
We don't have in the chat box, but we could go down another round.
Oh, I see a hand up here at Bozeman. Maybe we'll...
A hand in Bozeman?
Yeah.
Hang on. Okay, Headwaters Academy.
Awesome. So how can I, as a middle schooler in a predominantly white town, help to encourage this outreach?
Thank you.
That's great. Probably, I would say just, honestly, with, archival stuff, just start searching on websites and just start, I guess, looking through Origin. And then even, with films like these, and social media is a huge component, just start, I guess, self-educating yourself. And then you can, I guess, spread the message of how important it is to learn about other cultures.
Mm-hmm. Share this film with them.
Yeah,
maybe.
share this film. Yeah.
Please, just kidding.
Where do you find the film?
Yeah, where do you find the film?
YouTube.
YouTube, It'll actually be on YouTube probably next Monday.
Oh, great.
We haven't been able to put it up, but if you go to Maps Media Institute website, you will be able to get it.
So what we'll do is following up the filmmakers in the school this week with Inspired Classroom. Teachers already received a link to this, but any additional teachers on the line wanting to watch it again, feel free to reach out and we'll send you that link. And if you have any Instagram handle, I don't know, do you have a page or website?
Instagram, Facebook. Yeah. Can I just show this on screen? Is this okay? Can you guys see this?
I don't know if they can read it, but you can read it for them. Okay, so we'll send it along.
We are Milk River Productions, Harlem High School. Contact us at this number at 406-353-2287. Our Facebook page is at Harlem United MT. And then our email is milkriverproductions@gmail.com. So
Great, we'll send that
We'll
out.
send that along
Yeah.
afterwards. But I saw some students writing that down. as
Thank
were
you, guys.
saying.
We have a question from Ronan before we go to the
Okay.
hand.
Yeah.
If you had more time on the film, what else would you add?
Oh, great question.
A lot. Just kidding.
I think we should we would
It would
add.
probably be longer than 10 minutes.
Yeah, probably an hour.
An hour. I would have liked to add more of a student perspective. I felt that probably would have. I mean, you guys probably already connected to it, but I guess it would have been more of like a personal touch to it, because when you see kids doing something, you're like, oh, I relate to that. So that's probably what I would have changed up a bit, is if we could have added a little bit more of a student perspective in this film.
That's a great question.
Yeah, thank you
I'm
for
sure
that question.
whenever you finish a project, you always think, oh man, I wish I edited it
Yeah.
differently, or
Yeah,
added this
yeah.
footage in, or if we had more time, I would have added 30 minutes, or...
Actually, I have a story about that. Okay, so one of our instructors, Dan Malloy, he had a headshot of like a buffalo like close up, and sadly that footage was lost, and that was a huge. He
messed up.
Yeah, he was really annoyed with that.
So this is on Dan Malloy.
The one on the down first, because that one's been holding her hand
Yeah,
up for a while.
we're gonna go to another school. What's that middle school down below,
You
Kathleen?
know, I'm wondering, I can't, Kathleen, can you tell which one that is in the middle? Is that Echo's class? Like an elementary?
Yo, he really won.
Well, it looks different online.
It's the first
yeah,
one.
it's Echo's class. Yeah, Daily.
Daily, we'll take a question from you. I see a lot of hands
We have
up.
one from Victor on the stream. So
I feel the love. Just kidding.
go ahead, Miss Allison.
Do any of you want to make a career out of filmmaking?
Hands up.
Yes.
I have a question for you guys. Do any of you raise a hand? Do you have interest in pursuing a career in filmmaking? Maybe even after just seeing this film, raise a hand. You can be honest if you don't. If you do, I'd like to see your hands up high. Any? Some interest?
Whole bunch down there.
Yeah.
Cool. I really like seeing that.
Do you have any advice to young filmmakers that are interested in, so some of these guys might have, it's new to them, maybe they haven't gotten started. What advice from one young filmmaker to the next do you have for these guys?
Just because you're young doesn't mean you can't do it.
Take opportunity you have.
Yeah, really true.
Yeah.
I guess just
Start them young.
when you're making, show that you're very genuine and passionate about your topic, because your emotion, people can read what if you're being genuine or not. So I guess being genuine as a filmmaker is the hugest advice. And like these guys said, if you guys have an opportunity to make a film, take it. Because we had no knowledge of this, but now we're making it to huge film festivals. And again, I'd like to thank everyone that participated in this project. So
yeah, that's great advice.
Yeah.
Start off small.
I'm sure we've got a whole long string of, so we'll take a few more questions and wrap up here.
I wonder too, if we don't have time for everybody's question, if you would want to email Kathleen, we can pass them on to you and send them your way if you wouldn't mind answering questions after the fact.
I think that would be great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great.
Yep.
Let's do
Do you have
that.
another response over here to something
Oh, did you want to say something?
For the previous question, just start off small because you'll learn more along the way. You'll get bigger as you go along.
That's a great point. I think sometimes, especially with filmmaking, you think
Yeah.
you have to make this big global story about climate change or the end of the world and
Yeah.
what are we going to do about that? But I think what you guys did really well with this project is focused on things you knew in your community, and with that subject, it touches on huge themes that all these other films, these global films that are at the festival, for example, are touching on. And it's in the same league as a lot of these films.
Yeah.
So I think one thing at the Institute, I do a lot of work with classrooms around the state, and talking about Montana history is just as important as any other story. And to make filmmaking more accessible in your communities. I think you guys show that really well here. All right, I don't want to take up too much time. We've got a few more questions, and then we're going to have to say.
a couple of questions coming in. One from Sealy Elementary. What type of equipment would we need to have in order to start making films?
A camera. Just kidding.
Just a camera, and then
Is your phone good enough, or do you need?
Oh, you can. I think there's a bunch of filmmakers using their phones now, right?
Yeah.
There was a
Oh,
big
really?
movie made with an iPhone.
Oh, that film Tangerine? I think is that the film?
True.
Yeah.
But yeah.
How
Have
about
a
for editing?
story.
Oh, they're going.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
What?
Bye.
We have one more question from Victor. What personal rewards did you get out of making the film? Personal rewards.
Ooh, let's start with Nellie, because I think Nellie hasn't said too much. Do you want to start off, and then we'll go to Matrina?
Wait, what
and
was
then-
that question again?
What personal rewards did you get out of making the film?
Oh. What we achieved?
The personal reward.
What I personally achieved was like making this film just like go out and like making our relatives so happy about it. So, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Anybody else have another?
Anybody? Let's have everybody share like one little thing. Matrina, do you want to go next?
I guess.
After Pal.
Well, I'm a very traditional person, and like just showing off like how our culture is dying out in like where I'm from, like mostly, is like a big thing for me, and being able to show people that, you know, we're still here, you know.
We just need a shirt that says we'll stay here. Just kidding.
I think actually that's a great idea.
Okay.
Dante, you want to go next?
If you were to ask me to get up and talk in front of people like this about 2 years ago, I would not have done it. I would have said no and then walked away, or maybe not even have given you an answer. But ever since this film has finished production and we screened it to our school that Saturday, I saw how much of an impact that it made on our community, and especially people who were close to me personally. I had a grandma who was a part of the crowd, and she came up to one of the advisors and said, "Thank you so much for doing this for all of the students. I have never seen my grandson act like that in a long time."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really powerful. Clint, what about you?
Yeah, it's kind of like these guys said. When we screened it to the community and we saw their reaction, like saw some of our elders crying, I ain't gonna lie, it gave me a little bit of a man tear, you know? Our community reaction was great. That's what I got.
Mm-hmm. Alexis?
Oh, I guess it just kind of a little bit of what all these guys said, that it gave me self-confidence. It made me proud, I guess, to be a Native American and just to show people what being a Native American is like. So, yeah, that's, yeah. Yeah. Isn't it? Yeah, I don't know how to, yeah.
Hold up, you were trying to cry.
Wait, Anita, do you want to go?
Oh,
Yeah.
a personal reward.
Yeah.
What is it? It just like makes me so happy that like I never expected it to go like this far, and it just makes me happy that I get to meet all these new people and like be me and like represent and just like yeah.
Sharing that can be a little daunting, I think, at first. I remember probably when you guys first got into Missoula, kind of sharing the film for the first time, it's a little nerve-wracking because there's new
Yeah.
faces, you don't know people, and then getting more comfortable. The more you say it, the more you engage with it. I know we've got a lot of schools on board, but most all of them are excited to see this for the first time and share it with you guys. So.
And the confidence level just bound.
Yeah.
We're way up there. I just want to add one more thing. I want to thank you guys for asking all these great questions, by the way. Like, yeah.
Yeah. These have been awesome questions.
Yeah.
We can take a few more, and then I think we're going to have to wrap up, unfortunately.
Okay.
But Kathleen, do you have any more questions on the live stream there?
I don't, but we still have Miss Webster's class on.
Yeah.
I just unmuted you. Do you have a question?
Are any of you guys dancers?
Oh, good question.
Oh, yeah.
If you could see, I wish they could see your skirts. They're
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Can we tilt the camera down? Is that possible?
Yeah, let's do this. Okay. This is going to be a little goofy. Come stand over where I am. All right, you guys.
We're going to do a
here we
little
go.
show and tell.
Yep. Hold on. Let me get the camera moving, right?
Want me to move the table a little bit? Or I don't want to take more.
Oh, wrong way.
Wrong way.
Don't get seasick, everybody. Don't get seasick.
But
Okay, now we're going to go.
We're going to go on an
Zoom in out.
adventure.
So we're coming down.
Woo!
There.
Yeah.
Here, can I move
Oh, yeah, let's
the
move the
Is that
table.
possible?
You bet, absolutely.
I don't want to miss
Oh, those are beautiful.
I don't want to miss it. Here we go. Does everybody see that?
Yeah.
I want to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ah, and those were handmade, were they?
Yeah.
Did you make them or did you family members?
Family
make them?
members.
I know how to make them, but my auntie made this one for me.
And my sister gave me this one.
Oh, it's lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely colors. Are the colors and the stripes representative of any, like, certain things or symbolic?
Match colors. Just kidding.
They're just,
Well, it depends like on who makes the skirts and like how traditional they are with like making their colors and like how they do their little designs.
And I guess it depends on like the person you give it to. Too.
Yeah, and like how much it really means to them, like when they're like making it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm noticing your earrings as well.
Oh, my grandma made these for me.
All right, now we're gonna do something crazy. I'm gonna zoom in and see if we can show off these amazing earrings. Hold on.
Do you want to do everybody maybe on the side?
This is gonna be the spotlight spot. So you'll all have to take
It's
turns.
your left
standing.
side's your best side, Nelly. Don't worry.
Okay. So here's Nelly. No, oily. Okay, hold on. We're moving over here. Whoa.
You got my big black crow nose.
Gorgeous. Oh my goodness. All right, here we go. Coming. There we go. Beautiful. Oh, gorgeous. Okay, now nobody gets seasick this time because we're gonna go really fast.
Oh, you're showing mine? Just kidding. Mine ain't beaded.
Oh, they look beaded from over here. They're beautiful regardless. All right,
We're taking advantage of this. All right, guys, thank you so much for the show and tell.
Yes.
And I hope nobody got vertigo there.
Yeah.
But let's take one more question and then we're going to say our thank yous.
Oh, something
How
just
about
happened. Sorry about
City
that.
Elementary? If you're still on, Ms. Bartlett, do you guys have a final question? Anyone? Question?
All right.
Okay. I think that's
Great.
probably
Well,
it.
I think we had some schools leave because
myself.
that class period ended
Yep,
here, but
yep.
we got a lot of classes here today.
I know.
So thank you guys so much for sticking around and for joining us for a screening. I know these guys traveled very far to be here with us today, so thank you for taking the time this afternoon to share this wonderful film with us today. I did want to mention one last thing. Tomorrow we will also be doing screenings at 10 a.m. with the film River Queens and 1 p.m. Montana time with the film's Big Fur. So we'll have sent this information out via Inspired Classroom, send some reminders. So again, this is part of our Filmmakers in the Schools program, and filmmakers young and old join us for this to share their works of art and talk about a little bit about their process. So did you have any closing remarks or anybody want to say anything before we sign off?
I'll say thank you in Nakota, and it's Pina Maya.
If they can sing.
Oh,
Lovely.
A kid in the Reese sweater. I love your sweater.
Oh, I love it. All right, you guys.
Amazing. Thank you guys